Hello guys, my name is Spiros Katsios and today we're going to see some advanced entity framework features. Let's go into the code and let's see what do I have here. I have a console application and I have three entities in here. I have a person with an ID, a first name, a last name, and a boolean is deleted property, and also a list of houses owned. Each person can own a lot of houses, and let's go to the houses to see what's that entity. It has an integer ID, a string address, and a list of owners because its house can be owned by many people. And also it has an nullable house details object which is just some details about the house. For example, in here we have an integer of the which will represent the number of the bedrooms in that house details, and the daytime which will represent the build daytime of that house. Okay, I also in my persistence I have some configuration. Let's see that. I have a house configuration, nothing extreme, just I say that it has a key and that's the ID and that the address is required, and also that the person has also the ID as the key and the first name and the last name are required. Let's go now to our app.db context. I have enabled some sensitive logging and it will log that to the console. I also have a db set of person, a db set of house, and then I apply the configurations that we previously saw, and we also seed some data. We have three people, Peter Parker, Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, and also two houses with addresses Marvel Boulevard 1 and Marvel Boulevard 2. Okay, let's go now to our first feature. Let's say that I don't want these house details to be a different table. Let's say that I want the house to have a string field in the table and to add that house details as JSON or as a JSON string in there, and then pass it to a house details each time I want to query my database. We can do that. Let's see how. Let's go to our house configuration and we will need to add a value converter. Okay, let's do that. Let's say var house details converter equals with a new value converter, and we need to convert from the house details to string. Okay, now we need to say how we want to convert these house details to string. So we need to serialize that house details, so JSON serializer, so serialize that house details, excuse me, that's nullable. Okay, and let's pass, that's the default JSON serialize options. Okay, and now we need to do it the other way around, from a string to a house details. So if that string is null or white space, let's say return null, else deserialize that. So JSON serializer dot deserialize to a nullable house details, and let's pass again some JSON serialize options. Okay, and now let's fix that typo in here. Okay, and now the only thing we need to do is pass that converter. So builder dot property house details has conversion, and let's pass that house details converter. Okay, now let's add our first migration and let's see if that works. Okay, let's go to our terminal. Let's call that initial migration and let's go. Okay, now let's update our database. Okay, and now let's take a look at our database. Okay, let's go to our tables and let's see that house table. And as you can see, it has a house details. Now let's go to our program. Also, I have to mention that I have some print extensions, so we can print each object better. And as you can see in the where I print the house, I use that house details object. So okay, let's go. I have initialized my RDB context and let's say await context dot houses dot add async new house with let's say address equals Marvel Boulevard 3 and house details equals with new house details, and let's say it has 2 bedrooms and the build date time is actually now. Okay, let's save the changes and see what happens. Okay, let's run that thing. And okay, let's go to our houses, let's refresh that, and we have a new house, and as you can see the house details are stored as a JSON. Let's see if we can pass that. The house has an ID of 3, so let's go back to our program and let's take the one with ID 3 first, async where ID equals 3. Alright, and let's print that. So let's actually store that first to a value. That will be our house, and now house dot print. Let's see what will that print. Okay, and as you can see it prints as expected, so it passed it to the house details object from that JSON that we had in our database. Excellent. Now let's go to our second feature, and okay, let's go back to our person, and as you can see it has an isDeleted boolean property. Okay, now let's imagine that that appdb context is specific to the users of the application and not the administrators, etc. So that isDeleted is not actually very valuable because they will always see and query the users that are not deleted. So we can do something so that we don't need any time that we query our database to say where isDeleted equals false. For example, if we need to take all the not deleted people, excuse me, we can say var people equals with context dot people, let's await that, people dot where isDeleted equals false to a list async. Okay, but I don't know what that args is doing there. Okay, but the thing is that we need to specify that each time, and we don't want that for that DB context. So there is a solution for that. It's a global query filter, and it's actually very simple To add, let's go to our person configuration, and all we need to do is say builder dot has query filter and specify our filter in here. So our filter is deleted equals with false, and that's all we need to do. Now if we go back to our program and just take all the people, and actually let me go first to my database and to the people. Okay, and let's say that Bruce Banner is deleted, so change that to true, save the changes. Alright, now let's take that people, and now for each people, for each person in people, let's print that person. Okay, let's await that again. So person dot print. Let's run that. And as you can see, I didn't specify in here that I want the people that they are not deleted, but because of the query filter, I only get back the people that are not deleted. Okay, that was our first feature, and now let's go to our third, which we will use for our fourth also. Okay, now people and person and house, it's a many-to-many relationship, and for that reason EF was smart enough to create that house person table, which have a person ID called owner's ID and house ID called house's owned ID. Okay, but let's say that we need to access that table for some reason, and maybe we even want that table to be mapped from an object that we owned. So let's do that. Let's go to our entities and add a new class. We will call it house person reference or ref. Yeah, it's okay. And let's add now our person ID. Also let's add our house ID, and let's add our person and our house. Okay, now let's go to the configuration and add the configuration for that class. So let's actually copy that. Okay, configuration. Okay, and this is an implements the identity type identity type configuration. Okay, and because that's a table to hold that many-to-many relationship, we need to it doesn't have a key on its own. The key is actually the house ID and the person ID combined. So let's do that. Builder.hasKey new house ID. That's house person ref. Yeah, new. Excuse me. House ID and person ID. Excellent. And now let's go to our person or house configuration. It will work to specify that we want that many-to-many relationship to be stored in that house person ref. So builder dot has many. We are in the house configuration, so it has many owners. Okay, and each owner has many houses. So with many houses owned, and we need to use that entity that we just created. So using entity house person ref, house person ref. Okay, and let's go even further and define the name for that table. So to table house person ref. Okay, that will work, but let's say for the sake of this example that we also need in that table to store a datetime which will represent the date, actually an integer, let's say an integer that it will represent the year that person bought this house. So let's add that int year bought. Okay, that will also work, and let's actually see that. Let's go to our app.db context, add a db set of house person ref, db set house person ref. Okay, let's also add that to our iapp.db context. Excellent, and now let's try to add a migration. Let's go to our terminal and let's say add house person. Okay. Let's actually make it a little bit bigger. Okay, let's update our database again. Now let's refresh that. And now as you can see, our table is the house person ref table, and let's see that it has a year bought property. Okay, excellent. Now if we go here and let's take the first person. Okay. And let's imagine that we have a house. We want actually do something to the database, so we can actually say context dot house person ref, add a thing, etc., and we can create in there a relationship between a house and a person. We can also pass in here, let's actually see that, a year bought. Okay, but what if we needed to do it the classic way? We want to say person dot house is owned dot add, and let's add a new house with let's say address equals new address, and with house details, let's leave it empty, we don't care. I think we are okay. Now in that case we will not have that integer which will represent the year bought, and that brings me to our first feature. And let me say that what I'm going to do is not the recommended way to do something like that, but we will do that for this example so we can show that feature. Okay, that feature is an interceptor. What's an interceptor? Okay, when we write something in that link format, at some point the entity framework will translate that to a SQL command and will go and run it to the database. So with an interceptor we can intercept that SQL command just before it's going to be executed on the database, and we can manipulate that. So let's see that in action. But first, and you'll see why later, let's run that for now. So let's save that changes. Okay, run this. Okay, let's now create our interceptor. let's go to our persistent folder. Let's create another one called Interceptors, and in here let's create our house bot interceptor. Okay, now that house bot interceptor needs to inherit from the db command interceptor. Okay, and in that db command interceptor there is two methods that we need to override: the reader executing and the reader executing async. For the sake of time, we will only override that reader executing async, so let's go and do that. So public override value task of interception result of db data reader reader executing async. Okay, and we need the db command, the command event data, let's call it event data, the interception result of db data reader, the cancellation token, which will be equal with the default value. Okay, and now in here we have the command. So what we want to do in our scenario, let's go back to our terminal, to our console, and previously we ran a command which will add some values to that house person ref table. We can see it here. The values was for the house ID 4, for the person ID 1, and for the year bot, because we didn't have a way to access that, was 0. So what we will try to do, we will try to intercept that call to the database, and we will try to override that P4 value, which was 0, to the current year. Let's see how we will do that. We'll need to check if that command, let's actually say to lower, so don't miss anything, contains, and we need that insert into house person ref in here. So let's write that to lower, and wish that we don't make any mistake. House person ref, and I forgot the insert to house person ref. Okay, so if the command includes that insert to house person ref, we know that we're going and write to that database, to that table, and we need to change the P4 value parameter with the current year. So command text equals with command text dot replace that P4 value, and actually that P4, and let's say when it's that parenthesis closed, because we need that one right here. There is where we need to pass our value. Okay, so replace that with daytime dot now dot year, and actually that can mess up with a call that we can pass the the daytime, for example, a call to add to the house person ref, but again, that is for our example to see how an interceptor works. Okay, and finally we need to return new value task, and let's pass the result in there. Okay, and now let's see if that will work. Let's put a breakpoint in there and let's debug this. Yeah, we didn't hit. Oh, we forgot to add the interceptor in our DB context. So in here, let's add interceptors and let's pass our house bot interceptor. Okay, and actually, let's go back to our databases, and in that house person ref, let's delete that all those rows so we don't have a conflict with the ID. Okay, let's save the changes. Do we still have our breakpoint? Yeah, let's debug that again. Okay, now the first command is for selecting a person. Let's continue. Now that one is for inserting the new house. Okay, and now that should be the one that we want. Exactly, insert into house person href, as you can see. So let's step into it. That didn't work because, okay, let's stop this. It's insert into, my bad. Let's try that again. Okay, second time, third time, that's it. Now it went there, and let's see what it did. So as you can see, it replaced the P4 value with 2022. So let's continue, and we have an exception. Okay, let's see that again. Let's put a breakpoint in there and debug that again. Okay, our command text now is that in here. Okay, yeah, we forgot to close that parenthesis in there, and now it should work. I'm not even putting a debugger, a breakpoint, I'm sorry. Okay, let's go to house person ref. Let's see the data, and as you can see, that's 2022, and that's how an interceptor works. Okay, that was all that I have for this one. If you want to see more advanced EF features, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching and have a nice one.